The following is a hockey podcast out of Vancouver and Surrey, British Columbia. It'll only consist of a lot of puck talk and even more BS, or in actual words, banter and satire. Enjoy, and as always, go Canucks go.
Okay, word has it, and Quinn Hughes can agree with this. Kiefer Sherwood is really quick. Yeah, you want to know what other piece of wood is really quick? Trevor Beggs, huh? You want to know that?
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Quick Woody, that's why my wife calls me the Flash. Quick transition. Welcome to another episode of Locked On Canucks. My name is Trevor Beggs, co-host of Locked On Canucks and also a Canucks writer currently with the Daily Hive Vancouver. Before we dive into today's episode of Locked On Canucks, we got to thank you for tuning in. You know why? Because it is your Canucks every damn day. Part of that Locked On Podcast Network. They're doing the most for sports fans across the world and for our show. If you haven't done so already, make sure you go like, subscribe, follow us for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And hey, we are in here with the sponsors, and today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Sports, they've stopped sporting like we want them to, but this summer, FanDuel's hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. The Canucks were a pretty damn good hockey team last year. So good, in fact, that really I think they surprised most of the NHL. But is there a chance that even though they were pretty great last season, that they just got even better? I think so, based on what they did with their forward group in free agency. Let's talk about that here on Locked On Canucks. And specifically, we've talked a lot about Jake DeBrusk in early July. Let's get into Danton Heinen and Kiefer Sherwood. Do either of these guys have, sneaky top six potential? Because I think there's some numbers and some other scenarios that indicate that they could be playing top six minutes for your Vancouver Canucks and do so successfully playing higher up the lineup. Which guy has a better shot at providing the Canucks with more value? We'll get into that as well. Speaking of value, this guy brings it all, man. Kyle Bowen, the founder of KyleBowen.com, doing 445 podcasts a week, either recording or editing, man. Unbelievable stuff. What's going on, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. I'm excited to talk about the wingers, the new wingers on this team, right? Danton Heinen, Kiefer Sherwood, Quinn Hughes, co-signing Kiefer Sherwood. That is crazy to me. That is marvelous, and that is exciting because I feel as if there's another level to that guy's game, and we saw a good amount of level from that guy in that Nashville series, for real. Anyways, Trevor Beggs, Kyle Bowen at the Don't Doze Art Lab, doing our thing and giving you that West Coast bias and assuming the best, okay? For real. Okay, over the last couple of days, Trevor Beggs, Kyle Bowen getting ridiculed in the comments, the Montreal fans coming after us, saying that you can't get Jack Guy from us. This guy's the next Bobby Orr. You guys think you can get him for Podkolzin? Okay, and if the Canadian fans are going to do that and put Jack Guy on a pedestal, let's do the same with Kiefer Sherwood and Danton Heinen in Rick Tocchet's system. For real. And I'm excited to do so. We're talking about two players. They're, in my opinion, not the same, but kind of the same, but also completely different. But what I do like about both these guys being the same is their work rate, their effort. And I kind of want to start off with the West Coast bias, to be honest. I want to talk about Danton Heinen, a guy who took less, a guy who's excited to play for his hometown team, a guy who's already motivated, who's already proven so many people wrong. I think there's a chance that on this somewhat of a short-term deal for this guy, let's be honest, let's be real, that we get the best of the best from this guy going into a phase in his career where he can still nail one more contract. You know what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying? I think we can capitalize off this guy loving hockey so much, playing with a guy like JT Miller, having career years, helping the Vancouver Canucks and their fan base out. And man, oh man, I'm excited to see who we just got. Again, I feel like the Canucks pulled a quick one on the NHL.
Yeah, they 100% did. And Kyle, we graded the contracts after free agency, and I think we gave both of these contracts an A+. Two of the best value contracts in free agency, in my opinion. And I think everyone got distracted about what happened in Edmonton with Jeff Skinner and Victor Arvidsson. But I think you have two players here who not quite have maybe the same ceiling, but could potentially outperform those guys over with the Edmonton Oilers. And like I said, let's start with Danton Heinen, because all Danton Heinen has done throughout his NHL career is be underappreciated and then perform when he gets inserted into the lineup, right? again, he really hit it off with the Boston Bruins when he first entered the NHL in the same year as Jake DeBrusk in 2017-18 with 16 goals, 47 points. And then he gets traded to the Anaheim Ducks, puts up numbers there. He ends up being, goes on a PTO at one point to join Boston. He goes unsigned through the offseason, but all he's done through his NHL career is produce. And he did the same thing last season, 17 goals, 36 points in 74 games while playing in that middle six role. But this guy has had some time playing up the lineup too, right? He spent some time playing with Patrice Bergeron in the playoffs a couple seasons ago. This is a guy, again, who could play up and down your lineup. And I think there's going to be a motivation factor as well with him in Vancouver. And, there was a lot of talk about Vancouver being the PDO Kings last year, these guys being a little bit lucky. Well, you know what? Danton Heinen has also been kind of lucky throughout his NHL career in terms of his shooting percentage. And it kind of creeped back up last season. It wasn't anything that was, out of the ordinary, like, oh my God, regression is coming for this guy. But, he shot about 13% at even strength. And throughout his NHL career, he's been an above average shooter. So, Danton Heinen brings a lot to the table. And I think, again, he could be a good complementary piece, potentially in the Canucks top six. But if not, certainly he can be a good bottom six player for this hockey team.
Yeah, and if you just look at what he's done in recent history, right? A couple seasons ago with Pittsburgh, scores 18 goals, then has the bad season afterwards. So bad that he becomes a PTO guy for Boston. And what does he do? He impresses in camp, does his thing, is motivated to make an impact, and he puts up 36 points in 74 games. And based on some of the highlight packages that I've seen from this guy, and they don't do justice, to be honest. You got to watch the full 60, right, to really know about the player. But there is a bit of skill there. There is a heavy shot there. And if his work rate is high and he's able to understand his role alongside guys like JT Miller and Brock Besser, I think, again, with the opportunity in front of him, with a couple years left on this contract, with, the need to just prove yourself, get a fat contract in a couple of years. I think we could get the best out of a guy who wants to do it again for the Vancouver Canucks. And how can we not support this guy? He took less to play here. He probably could have stuck in Boston. Hey, speaking of Boston, we're talking about a professional dude. Pittsburgh, Boston, Vancouver. I feel as if the transition for him and being able to add to this team and not necessarily have it take a lot of time is so efficient. It's so explosive possibly for this team. And I want to throw it to you. I want to get a little not analytic. I want you to analyze this question, okay? What can Heinen do that Pius Suter can't? Because based on what I'm seeing on these lineup projections and based on what we saw in the playoffs, it's either Suter or Heinen. And I think if the Canucks want to level up a bit, we kind of need Heinen to be double the player that Suter is in his own way. That's asking for a lot, but again, hometown boy, has some skill there. You never know.
In short, I think the one thing that Heinen can do that Suter has struggled with a bit is finishing ability. And I know I'm picking on Suter a bit, but what do we see throughout the postseason? Pius Suter had so many opportunities to finish chances, and I know he scored the series clinching goal in Game 6, but that guy could have had 5 or 6 goals in this postseason if it wasn't for kind of a lack of finishing ability. And that's something that Danton Heinen has shown that he can do over the years. Now, at the end of the day, he is a middle six player. Like, he's going to go through stretches where he's not going to produce. And kind of look at his game log. He's had stretches of like 11, 12 games at a point. But one thing I think that Heinen has the potential for in Vancouver, and we've seen it with Teddy Bluger, is be on a really, really competent and strong third line. There was one stretch for when Heinen was it a rookie? It was a rookie. When he was a rookie with the Boston Bruins, he was on a line with David Backes and Riley Nash. And there was a stretch where that line had 18 goals and 46 points in 18 games. And again, just, at both ends of the ice, being a dominant two-way force and producing some offense. Danton Heinen is a hell of a player. And again, the pride of Langley, BC, captain of the Surrey Eagles, okay? There's a local connection here. And I think you got Danton Heinen on a discount because of that. I think this guy's going to be motivated to show that he could maybe push for a top 6 spot on this team. I think that's kind of the ceiling for Danton Heinen here.
Yeah, I can I can again assume the best. And that's what I'm doing in this middle of July, right? We can talk about what this guy's been in the past and who he's been and what the numbers are showing us. And I'm going to sit here and say, you know what? There's still more there. There's still more there. And I really, really do enjoy the fact that they got these guys with a little bit of term, just a little bit of term, and enough room for these guys to stay motivated to have career years. I like that recipe, man. I really do. When it comes to adding depth to your team, and that's what they did this offseason. I know we have to break down Sherwood before we answer a question like this, but man, oh man, I got to get right into it, okay? And we'll talk about Sherwood in a couple minutes after our first break. But look at this comment from Aaron Phillip, right? Because this is the big comment. This is it. This is what matters. Would this Canucks team, without Lindholm and Zadorov, beat the Oilers? I don't see Danton Heinen or Kiefer Sherwood making the difference. The Canucks probably need 2 more top players. Now, are those 2 more top players Philip Hronek and Elias Pettersson in the playoffs? Because remember, against the Oilers, for the most part, they were bare minimum. You get what I'm saying? They weren't extraordinary. And for a guy like Pettersson especially, that is the standard. And again, there's more room for Hronek to be more, I wouldn't say explosive, but be more X factor-ish, be more upper echelon. And I think disrespectful JR brings up a good point that, yeah, maybe Edmonton got Arvidsson and Skinner, and we got Heinen, and we lost Zadorov, and we got Sherwood, and we lost Lindholm. Like, it doesn't make sense. How do we beat the Oilers? We beat the Oilers if our best guys like Pettersson and Hronek are better players in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think that was a great answer to that question there. And to Aaron's point, look, I think this game is more and more based on star power than ever before. We saw it with the flawed Edmonton Oilers team making it all the way to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final, right? And they did that on the back of good defense, but really there's their star power up front that shone through. If the team was able to add Gensel, that would have been a massive difference. I mean, obviously there's some hope that Jake DeBrusk can do the same, but this is just the downside of living in a cap world, right? I mean, sure, if the Canucks had Stamkos and Gensel, they'd be a super team, right? I think everyone would be like touting this team as a Stanley Cup favorite, right? But we live in a cap world, and that's just not really a realistic possibility. So I think what the Canucks have done is they made a bet on Jake DeBrusk that he can be more than what he's been in Boston. They made bets on Heinen, and they made bets on Sherwood that they can outperform and maybe even drastically outperform what they're being paid right now. So to Aaron's question, the Canucks would be better off with Stamkos and Gensel and star power at the top of this lineup. But I think they made some shrewd bets based on what they were able to afford in free agency here. Talked a lot about Danton Heinen here in the second segment, or in the first segment, but in the second segment, let's touch on a guy who I think might even have more upside than Danton Heinen. No disrespect to the BC Bud. Maybe we'll do a little Begsy versus Bowd on the other side here on Locked On Canucks. But hey, we got to shout out our sponsors before we get to that. And today, the show is sponsored by FanDuel. It's the dog days of summer. We don't even got the year on anymore. The Copa's gone. Is nothing but Major League Baseball. But you know what? With FanDuel, they make things a little bit more intriguing because they offer a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So make sure you head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. And you know what? On FanDuel, I don't know if they got this, man, but like my top sport right now, Kyle, and I know you hate this and I know you roll your eyes. I'm still a CFL guy, man. I'm still a CFL guy.
Can you bet on the CFL on FanDuel? They let you do that?
I'm checking it right now, man. I'm checking it right now.
They don't, man.
They sure do, man. Let's go. FanDuel's got you covered, buddy. The CFL on FanDuel, okay? And my BC Lions playing the Calgary Stampeders this week. They're 4.5-point favorites. Let's go, baby. The best damn team in the CFL. Let's go. So whether you're betting on Major League Baseball or my preferred sport, the Canadian Football League, you can do it all on FanDuel. Make sure that you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball.
Wow, we got to change that music, man. Still haven't changed it, man. That stuff hurts the ears. Who's our producer, man? Who's our producer? Let's fire him. Okay, Kyle Bow and Trevor Beggs doing our thing. Locked On Canucks at the Don't Doze Art Lab, giving you that West Coast bias. Go visit don'tdoze.com. Yes, DONTDOZE.com to learn about what that West Coast bias is all about, because nobody does it like these guys on the West Coast, for real. You got to look after your neighbors if you want to look after the world. It's literally the truth. Now, speaking of our neighbors, Kiefer Sherwood is a new neighbor. I'm pretty sure Quinn Hughes helped him move in. I'm pretty sure Quinn Hughes actually bought him a house, considering what I've heard and considering of how much a fan Quinn Hughes is of Kiefer Sherwood. And that says a lot based on the fact that Kiefer Sherwood probably hurt Quinn Hughes and hurt our chances in beating the Oilers because Hughes was feeling it. Kiefer Sherwood always on the forecheck. Kiefer Sherwood quicker than I am in bed when I am not confident. When I'm not confident, I last 8 pumps and 6 seconds. That is just the truth. That is just the truth. Now, is Kiefer Sherwood going to make a big impact on this team? I think so. Trevor Beggs, a big fan of this guy, maybe a bigger fan than Satir Shah is of this guy. I heard that Sat Shah thinks this guy's going to score 60 goals. 60 goals or 30 or 27, one or the other. But man, oh man, Trevor Beggs. So what? I don't want to say what are like realistic expectations of this guy. Maybe we'll get into that in like 5-6 minutes. But I just want you to, gas this guy up. Okay, make this guy seem like he's bigger than he is, because a part of me sees the sparkle in your eye, and you actually believe that this guy can be a real big time player for the Vancouver Canucks.
The one thing I love about Kiefer Sherwood is, I think he's been doubted throughout his whole NHL career, right? He's a little bit undersized, not incredibly undersized. He's like a shade under 6 feet, pushing 200 pounds. But he's been, a top scorer in the AHL for a long time. And really, like last season was his career high in NHL games played at 68 games. And this guy, again, got a cup of coffee in the NHL back in 2018-19 with the Anaheim Ducks, where he had, 50 games played, 6 goals, 12 points. And then from there, it was just bouncing between the NHL and the AHL, riding that bus a lot. And again, it wasn't even until last season that he had a full-time NHL role. And again, this guy's the same age as Danton Heinen, right? He's 29 this year. So again, a lot of time he's spent in the AHL just grinding, being a top scorer, trying to figure out how to make a difference at the next level. And he kind of heard it in his media availability too, like just being on the team and doing whatever it takes to win. And that's why I think you get this physical edge with a guy who didn't really have that physical edge, I don't think, early in his career. A scorer at the University of Miami, a top scorer in the AHL. This guy wasn't really banging and crashing bodies, at least from some of the tape that I've tried to watch. But again, really carved out a role in the NHL with Nashville last season. And I do think there's more to his game because despite him being 29, he's relatively inexperienced at the NHL level. He's got 187 career games played. That's not a ton, especially for a guy who's 29 years old. And I think he can be a complimentary piece in potentially the top 6. If not, he can do maybe like where Nils Höglander was early in the season. And I actually think Nils Höglander, that path might be what's most likely for Sherwood. I think he probably starts off on a 3rd or 4th line, and I could see him moving his way up the lineup.
Oh my God, Trevor Beggs, relax. Okay, so now we want to make this team better. We want to, beat the Oilers. We want to be just, again, a juggernaut in the Western Conference. And this guy's like, you know what? Elias Pettersson, here's Kiefer Sherwood. Are you serious, bro? Are you serious? Listen to yourself, Trevor. Relax, man. Is that really the solution? Like getting the most out of Kiefer Sherwood? Again, okay, look, now let me just be realistic. Okay, what are the realistic expectations for Kiefer Sherwood? Like, how much does he raise the floor of this team based on him, quite honestly, just being better than Sam Lafferty?
Yeah, well, I think that's certainly the bar to cross right there. But, I look at Kiefer Sherwood and his underlying numbers. Like at the NHL level, over the past 2 seasons where he's been in Nashville, the rate that he scored at even strength has been a first-line scoring rate, a low-end first-line scoring rate at even strength. He's posted about 2 points per 60, and that cutoff, it really is around that 1.9, 1.95 in terms of top-line players and what they produce at even strength. So, again, I think there's more to give with Sherwood. This is a guy who hasn't played a lot of penalty kill, hasn't played a lot of power play, which makes sense. If this is basically almost his first full NHL season last year for the first time in 5 years. So I think Kiefer Sherwood, I'm not trying to force him up the lineup. I'm just saying guy, based on his work ethic, based on his ability to do anything, I think he's going to win over Tocchet pretty fast here with his physical. I'm not surprised if he won over Tocchet just with his play in the playoffs as well. I think he's going to do whatever it takes. I think he's going to earn the trust of the coaching staff. And I could see him, and not being the first option, but being an option to play higher up the lineup, especially if he's able to put up some points and a bit more.
Holy dude. Cool. Damn, bro. Yesterday, freaking Montreal Canadiens fans, if you haven't seen the episode, like, go peep it, because we're getting destroyed in the comments for real. Yesterday, we're talking about this guy right here, Arbor Alphabet, a.k.a. Jack Eye. being got for a 3rd-round pick. And apparently this guy's the next Al McInnes. And Trevor Beggs out here talking about Kiefer Sherwood being the next Michael Pekka. You know what I'm saying? What's going on here, Trevor Beggs? Anyways, okay, can we touch on this? Can we go back to the whole Quinn Hughes thing? Again, Quinn Hughes apparently bought this guy a house already and a Lamborghini because he's so happy to have him on the team. More specifically speaking, Quinn Hughes calls Patrick Allvin after Sherwood signs the deal. And Quinn Hughes is just raving about this guy, right? Played a lot of hockey against him. I guess is enamored by his speed, his tenacity. The same can be said about Rick Tocchet and his views on Kiefer Sherwood. If anything, those two being so high on Sherwood, especially Quinn Hughes, our captain and excellent player, one of the best players in hockey, a generational talent, has me thinking that this is a slam dunk signing for this organization because those two have a grip of not just the talent in this organization and the need for more talent, but the culture. And it seems like Danton Heinen and Kiefer Sherwood add to what the Canucks are trying to build. And what they're trying to do is just be an extremely hard team to play against. And I mean, we talk about this whole like Vegas thing, right? And how the Canucks are trying to build a defense like Vegas. Are the Canucks trying to build a forward group like the Florida Panthers?
I mean, like the signings in terms of Heinen and Sherwood, there's certainly signs that the Florida Panthers would have made. And again, guys that have shown in terms of the underlying numbers are really good players, strong bets to outperform their contracts. In terms of their on-ice play, Heinen, a very responsible player. Sherwood, one of the faster players in the NHL, and he's physical. And again, look at the underlying profile at even strength. Okay, so last season at even strength, among over 700 NHLers to suit up for at least a few cups of coffee in the NHL. Kiefer Sherwood is 105th among 771 NHLers in terms of even strength points. He is tied with Jeff Skinner, for instance. Okay, tied with Jeff Skinner. Okay, so everyone's touting the Jeff Skinner signing, being like, "Oh, what a great signing for Buffalo! What a great opportunity." Kiefer Sherwood scored at the exact same rate as Jeff Skinner last season. Just saying.
There you go. Jeff Skinner signs with the Oilers, and they think they got like crazy. Again, the whole Oilers
People
thing.
People handing the Oilers a cup because of it. I'm like,
Arvidsson and
Jeff Skinner and Victor Arvidsson.
Yeah, dude. Okay, Arvidsson and Skinner signed with the Oilers, and they have like this dynasty set up. And Skinner, a guy that's never played in the playoffs, apparently makes Anyways, man, the Canucks. I think that if you wanna talk about that, I think the Canucks are actually equipped to go up against the Oilers a bit better based on the depth that they have in their forward group and just being harder to play against. And I see guys like Sherwood and Kiefer making it hard for guys like Skinner and Arvidsson to, get things done more on the regularly. I guess again, if we're gonna take out Lindholm and Zadorov and replace them with like grit and hard work, I think the Canucks did a good job because replacing Zadorov and Lindholm, it's not in the hands of, again, DeBrusk, Sherwood, and Heinen. It's literally in the hands of Elias Pettersson stepping up. Oh, and Thatcher Demko. Straight up. Remember that, Canucks fans. Thatcher Demko did not play. Did not play. So didn't Elias Pettersson. So didn't Philip Hronek until Game 7. We're good. Don't worry. And Heinen and Sherwood make us harder to play against. And, bro, we've watched hockey our whole lives. Our whole lives. You win with guys like that. Down the road when these guys are like playing in the 3rd and 4th round, it's other guys who step up, right? You talk about like the Connor Browns and the Janmark. Is that what's his name?
Yeah, Matthias Janmark. Yeah.
Yeah, it's those type of guys. Like, I'm confident that the Canucks, who brought these guys over from Boston and Nashville, Andrew Brunette and that coaching staff, and is it Montgomery with the Bruins? Like, I think that they've done a great job making this team even more professional, making this team harder to play against, and just adding to the culture. I think that remember that there was that whole and this is why I don't want to expect too much from Kiefer Sherwood. I literally want him to level up from Sam Lafferty. But getting rid of Mikheyev and just opening up positions where you don't need to expect that guy to do a lot in that position, and just replacing him with either a DeBrusk and whatnot, and just having guys like Heinen and Sherwood just play their roles and do their thing. If everything slots up the way it needs to slot up, if I'm saying that correct, I think the Canucks, again, overall have a way better team.
Yeah, I completely agree. And again, I know it's July 17th, but I'm stoked for next season to get underway. But let's not rush through the summer, man. Kyle and I got to do a couple in-person meetups, okay? Brainstorm for the future here for both Locked On Canucks and some other projects that we're working on as well. Stay tuned for all of that. Also, stay tuned for the other side. Maybe we'll answer this question, okay? Disrespectful Junior asking who's better, Heinen or Sherwood. I think we maybe kind of give that answer, but let's give some firm answers on the other side and get to your comments as well. Before we do that, let's shout out our friends over at Indeed. It's the middle of July, baby, so it's not necessarily job hunting season. It's more so lie on the beach in your Speedo season, all right? But if you do want to get on the job market, or if you're an employer looking to hire someone, you need to use Indeed, all right? If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data. And they got a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch that busy work and use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed just doesn't help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree that Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. Indeed, they do it all. And you know what, listeners of the show, you will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this very podcast. Locked On Canucks, baby. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
People, we back doing this, and that's assuming the best from Kiefer Sherwood and Danton Heinen. I almost forgot their names there because I thought, again, we just signed like Matthew Tkachuk and another stud because we're just assuming the best. We're assuming the best out here, man. These wingers, like, who needs Gensel when you have Kiefer Sherwood? You know what I'm saying? Who needs Steven Stamkos when you have Danton Heinen? Okay, Danton Heinen, Langley, bro. Have you ever been to Willowbrook Mall and got yourself some booster juice? You know what I'm saying, bro? Shout out to Booster Juice. Anyways, Begsy. What else, man? It's the summer, man. It's the middle of July. We live in life, man. So much on the plate, so much on the table. 31. Dude, isn't it your birthday soon? Is it already your birthday, right?
Yeah, tomorrow, buddy.
How did I know, bro? I felt it in the energy, man. That's friendship right there, baby. That's friendship right there. I knew it was your birthday soon. We didn't talk about it. We're dudes. We don't talk about our birthdays. We don't get each other gifts, even though we've known each other our whole lives. And, bro, I knew it was your birthday soon. You're almost 31 years old, man. Almost 31, bro. Back pain. Dude, I actually hurt my back getting up from a seat at the cafe yesterday, actually. So welcome to the party. Closer and closer to erectile dysfunction. But it's okay. We live in Canada. Okay, there's a lot of things for that, and I'm happy for you, man.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. I'm still popping stiffies on the regular, thankfully, especially when I think about this Vancouver Canucks team winning a Stanley Cup. Kyle, let's do one thing quick for the people. Let's give an answer. Heinen or Sherwood? Okay, who's gonna be better next season for your Vancouver Canucks? Let's hit the button, baby.
Hit it. Holy macaroni. Kyle versus Trevor. What's this segment called? Trevor Begsy versus Bowen? I think so.
Yeah.
All right. There you go, man. Begsy, the darkest guy in the program, versus Kyle Bowen. This is we're still doing this in 2024. We're still going up against each other when we should be uniting forces. I guess so, man. I guess so. It's what YouTube's all about. Okay, I think I gotta stick with. And this may surprise people because I'm a BC bud. I'm a West Coast bias type of guy. I'm Danton Heinen from Langley, Booster Juice, all that jazz. Willow Video Games, remember that place? Shout out to Langley. But I'm going to go with Kiefer Sherwood, man. Having a more impactful year with the Vancouver Canucks. Maybe not statistically speaking, but if I'm going to lean on anything, it's going to be the co-signing of Quinn Hughes. Again, that phone call, the fact that, like Quinn Hughes bought this guy up. He bought this guy a freaking Japadog franchise. That's what I'm hearing, bro. Like, he wants Kiefer Sherwood to be a part of Vancouver history forever. So I'm going to go with that, man. Kiefer Sherwood's going to have a more impactful season this season for your Vancouver Canucks.
You know, I like the ceiling that Kiefer Sherwood has. I think it's higher than Dan Heinen's. But that being said, I think Danton Heinen, he's proven to be the more successful NHLer to this point in his career. And I think he offers more of an all-around game as well, in terms of killing penalties, going up against the opposition's top lines. Kiefer Sherwood, I think it's going to be a more exciting player. There's the potential for more. But overall, I'm sticking with the BC Bud, man. I'm excited about Sherwood, but the pride of Langley coming home after, almost hitting his career high in terms of goals and points last season. This is a guy, as a rookie, had 47 points, as I mentioned. I think there's another level to Danton Heinen's game that's, maybe been a bit muted in terms of the fact that he's been bouncing around from team to team, organization to organization. And, his good buddy, Jake DeBrusk, is now on this team as well. I do think Danton Heinen has the ability to make a big impact for the Canucks this season as an all-around player defensively on the PK and in terms of chipping in with the occasional offense as well. So I think Danton Heinen will finish the season with a more successful season than Kiefer Sherwood.
Yeah, you bring up Heinen and the whole penalty kill thing, and something just tells me that him and Teddy Bluger are going to be fun to watch as a PK pairing. Real talk. Straight up. And, even to touch on Teddy Bluger, I think it would be nice for us down the road, maybe in the immediate future, to talk more about him. I know he's not the most sexiest player, but again, his commitment to the Canucks was pretty important as well. And it's a part of the culture, man. Look at this comment, right? Happy Jack saying that we're not going to be a fun team to play against this season. I agree with that. And like, the Canucks have their own identity and their own group of players and their own style and all this jazz. But the more and more I look at what Tocchet and Foote are trying to do with Alvin and Rutherford, the more and more I see a combination again of some of that Vegas flair, but a lot of that Florida Panthers energy, man. For real. Just be pieces of shit all over the ice. For real. Anyways, Begsy, let's get to some comments. Maybe you have some favorited before we get out of here. Okay, we got to do it for the people here, okay? We're here every day. Look at what SK93 is saying, man. Shout out to Surrey, okay? Locked On Canucks putting in more work than Patrick Allvin this offseason. That is not true. That is not true. We just have microphones, buddy, okay? We could be bringing you this podcast from a toilet. You know what I'm saying? You know how hard it is to use the internet and do a hockey podcast? It is not hard at all. It's not hard at all. We're blessed, okay? So never, ever compare us to the GM of the Vancouver Canucks, okay? Straight up. That dude is a boss. Me and Trevor, we're just 31 years old. I'm 31 and a half. Trevor Beggs is almost 31. Anyways, Beggs, any comments?
Yeah, let's go to this one from Aaron Gray, my ball hockey captain, so I got to shout him out so I stay in the lineup. And he's saying, kudos to Scott Gomez for taking over as the head coach of the Surrey Eagles. Yeah, because we mentioned Danton Heinen being the former captain of the Surrey Eagles. I wouldn't be surprised if Danton Heinen, you catch him down at the rink here in South Surrey watching some games as well. I'm going to shout out a couple comments here from the Disrespectful Junior. First and foremost, Disrespectful Junior started the comments off with his line projections for next season. Kyle and I will be getting into that pretty soon here. We want to do our projections for next season. Hopefully we come up with something different, because I think when we did this last year, we had the exact same lines. Man, we're too in sync sometimes. And we also want to touch on what we think the coaching staff is going to do, because what we want and what the coaching staff is going to do are two completely different things. But Junior also brought up this comment. I got huge faith in Silovs, so much so I see him playing half the games and possibly taking Demko's spot 18 months from now. Kyle, you touched on the Silovs episode yesterday. What do you think of that comment? Could and will Arturs Silovs take over the crease from Thatcher Demko at some point? And if so, when will that happen?
After Demko's contract ends.
Yeah, so you're thinking we're 24 to 30 months out kind of thing.
Yeah. Because you know what, man? I think the only way that would happen is in sooner, not happening after the contracts end for both these guys, is if Demko gets hurt again. And I don't want to assume that, because we just seen the worst of the worst. You know what I'm saying? And I'm going to assume that Demko is not going to get hurt anymore. And if that's the case, then we have to just stick with the facts, okay? Thatcher Demko, a stone cold killer. I know he doesn't talk much, but that guy's a stoic killer. He knows what's on the line, okay? He's got 2 more years with the Canucks. The team that drafted and developed him had faith in him. They picked him over Markstrom, okay? He also has this timetable in my mind where he's not only aiming for a Stanley Cup, but he's aiming to be the number 1 goaltender for Team USA in a couple of seasons during the Olympics. I'm not talking about the damn Four Nations Cup, okay, that BS tournament. I'm talking about the Olympics, okay? There's a lot on the line for that guy. He's so instinctively motivated, and he's so effing talented. He's so unbelievably talented. I would not be surprised that in the next 2 years, Demko, when he plays his games, like the 50 games in the regular season, the however many games in the playoffs, that we see the best goaltender in franchise history do his thing. Now, it's crazy to say that and then also say he's going to be gone in 2 years, but man, oh man, after only getting paid $5 million a year, there is no chance that Demko is taking a discount. There is no chance that Demko is not going to want to get Hallebuck money. You know what I'm saying? And I think the Canucks at that point in time, with the OEL buyout still hurting, and just with the opportunity to move on and sign Silovs for a lot less and hopefully get similar impact, it's over. It's over. 2 years of Demko, and that's it. If Silovs continues to develop.
Yeah, bold take, but also not that bold of a take too, because, again, if Silovs continues on the upward trajectory, he'll deserve to be starter at some point. Kyle, I think it's time to get out of here, man.
Yeah, we gotta go.
We gotta go. Shout out to the everydayers, the occasional listeners, the first-time listeners, the new subscribers, and those of you who join us on the live show on YouTube. Shout out to Langley. Shout out to guys named Kiefer. Shout out to guys named Reefer. And coming up here on Locked On Canucks, we want to touch on one unrestricted free agent who could he be a fit for the Vancouver Canucks. We'll also get into our lineup projections as well. All that and more. List season is coming up too, baby. We got you covered here on Locked On Canucks, your Canucks every day. But for now, we got to get out of here. I'm Trevor Beggs. That guy is Kyle Bowen. And you've been listening to Locked On Canucks.
Peace. One love.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks, part of the Locked On